Congratulations. You arrived here safely. Well, don't take that for granted, because you were just facing one of the most dangerous tasks you could do. You're wondering which one that might be? Well, I can tell you a little bit about it, because I am a safety psychology researcher, and my work is all about risks. I've always been very curious about why accidents happen. Why do drivers drift off a straight road? Why do children have accidents on their way to school? And why are humans blamed in 95% of all the accidents? That's what I wanted to find out when I got the opportunity to join a team of safety psychologists. What they did at that time was studying accidents in coal mines. Why there? Because so many accidents happened there. That is tragic. But if you want to understand why these accidents happen and what you could do to prevent them, you need these numbers. Coal miners face a lot of tricky tasks, of dangerous tasks, like operating with huge machines or handling with explosives. But when we went through all the accident data, one surprising fact stood out. The most dangerous thing was walking. And not just in one coal mine, but in several ones. And as we found out later, even in steel plants and in a police department. Walking consistently caused the most accidents, regardless of how often the task was done. But while walking, people felt safe. Well, you might imagine what happens if you tell a coal mining veteran that he should be aware of accidents while walking. So yeah, we have to dig deeper. Knowledge, even if it's wrong, is one key factor in risk perception. And risk perception in turn influences our behavior. Most of the time, we don't notice much of it. And that's perfectly okay, because in many cases, our risk perception is perfectly correct. In some situations, we, have a biased risk perception. So, for example, that's when we might overestimate a risk, when we see a bigger threat than actually exists. That's not ideal, but things are much worse when it comes to an underestimation of risk. That's where the majority of accidents happen. Could this underestimation of risk be linked to accidents of children on their way to school? That's what a student and I wanted to find out. So we chose a school. We went through accident data of places near that school. We identified 4 accident hotspots. As a comparison, we took further 4 situations without any reported accidents. We took photographs of these situations, went back to the school, and asked the children. What do you think? How many accidents happen here? Well, let me look at it. Oh yeah, I know that place. A lot of accidents do happen here. All right. And if you cross that area, do you have to be careful? Oh yeah, of course, I really have to be careful. But no reported accident there. All right, now this one. What do you think? How many accidents do happen here? Accidents? What are you talking about? And if you cross that area, do you have to be careful? No, why would I? Not just the kids considered this area is completely safe. We presented the results of that study to their teachers, to their parents, to the local police. Even they had the impression that that was the safest place. Well, and let's be honest, it does look very harmless and innocent, but it's not. This is the most dangerous place we found in the data, with almost 5 accidents each year involving children. So yes, there is a link between wrong knowledge and underestimation of risk and accidents. But the story doesn't stop there, because sometimes we see that people have perfectly correct knowledge but still act inappropriately dangerous. That's when people think they can handle the risk. And that brings me to another important factor in risk perception, that is the subjective controllability of risk. That's when we think we can handle the situation. And that might be linked to when people are speeding. That's something we wanted to find out in an experiment by using our driving simulator. So imagine you are sitting in your car. You are driving on a country road. You are entering a village. You are approaching a bus stop where a bus is waiting because people are getting on and off that bus. No law requires you to stop, so you go on. You leave that village again, you are back on the country road. This routine repeats over 5 laps. Everything works out perfectly. But during the 6th lap, something strange happens. Just in front of you, just in front of the bus, out of a sudden, people are stepping into the road, just in front of you. Isn't that frightening? But the question is how that would influence your behavior. You might think, well, yeah, that would be a warning call. So yeah, next time I am near that bus, I would reduce my speed and would look more longer and more frequently at that bus. And that's exactly what our participant did during the first lap after the incident. But during the last lap, after everything had gone well again multiple times, they drove faster than they ever did and looked less frequently at that bus. Bad surprise for us. So we did several variations of that experiment, but always found the same result. And a colleague of mine found the same lack of behavior adaptation even in a realistic driving environment. So this time, people knew that there was a risk, but still acted carelessly. The question is why? Well, we assume that these situations even increased the impression of having everything under control. Well, yeah, it really was a close call. Bad situation but still, I handled it. Any other driver would have had a severe accident, but I didn't. And boy, did you see my great reaction times? So the chances are that we feel even more skilled after that incident and act more carelessly. But that could turn to be out as a control illusion. But now we've got a problem. Overconfident people are speeding even in hazardous areas. Children unsuspectingly crossing accident hotspots, and workers who feel way too safe about the risk of walking. We have to solve this. Well, when I was once in the Silicon Valley, somebody told me, well, when we have a pothole in the street, we build a technology that goes and drives around it. I'd like to show you why this well-intended solution might trick us even more into a control illusion. So imagine this. You are sitting in your modern car. Your hands barely on the steering wheel as it brakes, accelerates, and steers completely on its own. These new assistance systems, they feel like magic. But the longer you sit there and nothing really goes wrong, the more you will have the impression of having everything under control. But that could become an illusion of control. Because sooner or later, you have to take over immediately, within seconds, maybe just once a year. It's not a question of if, but it's only a question of when. Are we prepared? As long as we think that we have everything under control, why should we be ready at all times? So the chances are that we will be distracted, that we will be watching videos or playing games and having accidents. Yeah, but now we've got a real problem. So what could we do now? What could be the real solution? Well, starting where the risk perception is wrong. If people have wrong knowledge, tell them the truth. A self-driving car can't perform miracles. Technology can't break the rules of physics. And some areas in your vicinity might be way more dangerous than you might think. But that might contradict the expectations, as in the case of the coal mining veteran. So what you need is proof. Don't just talk about it. Show the accident figures. Yeah, we have them, not just from any place, but what the target group can identify with. And be persistent. Individual accidents are rare. So rare that people might even acknowledge that there is a risk in general, which doesn't apply to them. There we are again, the illusion of control. So how could we tackle that illusion? Well, here's a trick. Sometimes it helps people to remind them that there are quite frequently some kinds of near accidents. We have near misses and near accidents all the time, while walking, while driving, while cleaning, while tidying. Don't ignore them. Acknowledge them by accepting that we have made a mistake. It keeps us self-critical and reminds us that many things are way less controllable than we might think. It also helps to remind people that we are not the only part of the equation. Even if you think it is safe to use a zebra crossing, accident data shows that it is not uncommon to be overlooked by others. Which brings me back to the risk of walking. Sooner or later, you have to leave this building. Do you really still think that you can control the risk of walking on your way back home? Well, in that case, these are the recent accidents around this building. Now you will have a safe trip back, as long as you don't overestimate yourself. Thank you.